start
Hey
this,
buddy,
man.
how are you?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, how are you feeling?
Feeling all right, man. Just
I
ready to
thought
get this started.
I thought the coffee has started made you feel a bit.
Yeah, look at my feet, man. They have a mind of their own. They're just moving.
Yeah, they just like shaking it like that.
I could probably stop it. Let me just put this foot over here. But yeah, man, just let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
We're making this, and hopefully it goes well.
Yeah, inshallah.
And
So let's dive right into it. Today, hopefully, inshallah, we're gonna be covering the part of the mind. As you know, the take back is all about mind, body, and soul, and the goal today is to cover a bit of mind-related topics. And before we get into that, I would like you to tell the audience, who are you? What's your a little bit of your background? What have you done so far? Where are you living? Just a bit about yourself to get the things going.
well, I was born. If we're gonna start from there, I was born in America, as you know.
Alright.
The first 5 years of my life I spent over there, and then I came down here, and we spent a lot of time together after that.
Yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know, we used
Like
to
we have
be-
spent like a whole childhood together.
Yeah. We used to be at each other's house. Mainly, it was me at your house, and you used to do all kinds of stunts. And we
Oh.
would get on top of the gates,
Yeah.
and jump down into the garden.
I had that spark and that jumping around thing, that parkour thing inside me like from day
From
one.
the day one,
Yeah.
you were always ambitious about that, and sometimes you even got hurt.
Yeah.
I remember there was this one time we had our legs on the couch,
Uh-huh.
and we were holding ourselves up.
I just remembered it.
Yeah, and we were pressing against the wall with our legs on the couch, and we were
And
holding
it slipped.
ourselves
My hand
up,
slipped.
and his hand slipped, and his head hit the corner of
The tile.
these things, the
The
tiles.
tile broke.
And
the tile broke.
broke, and he fractured his
I
skull a
got
little
stitches.
bit. He
I
had
got
to get
stitches.
stitches. That was a little
Sick.
traumatic,
we used to
probably for
we
you.
used to have night stays. I still remember. I
Were
was
you? Did
like,
you ever get scared after that? Did you ever be like, maybe I shouldn't do this anymore?
Nah, man, not at all. I've always had that thrill inside me, and alhamdulillah, I feel like, if you're meant to get hurt, you're gonna get hurt. You should be obviously careful, but because of that ambition and that spark, I always used to achieve things that are not that easily achievable.
Right. They gave you that extra push.
Yeah. So moving from forward from there.
Yeah, so just kind of dove into the culture over here, understood.
Initially, you were here, or initially you were in the States before, like when you were born. You were raised
Yeah, I was raised in the first 5 years of my life were spent in the U.S.
in the U.S.
Yeah, and then after that, we came here as a family. Dad and them decided to,
Yeah.
Obviously as a kid you don't have much say in the matter,
Mm.
and that's when you kind of started getting exposed to the culture and started getting exposed to the food and the religion and how people look at things over here, their views, their merits, their pros, their
Yeah.
cons, and there's always been this kind of point of view that I've from my personal experience had of both sides, because I grew up over there and over here.
Yeah.
So there's a side of things that in our family people don't always get to see that. It's just like they haven't experienced as much of the other side as maybe I have. So that may be a perspective that may be valuable to you guys once we get
Definitely.
into
I
it.
would love you to, dive into that a bit and tell the audience that how do you look at life compared to in the States compared to Pakistan, and how would you picture it for them?
Well, it's always been more clean there that way. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I love the food over here. I love the people, the family, and every time we're over there, the things that are missed the most is family and food.
Oh yeah.
So we come back here and we're like, okay, it's
I
like
mean,
I'm getting
that's
to catch,
that's
getting to
something
catch up
you
with
realize
Anas.
always, that supposedly when I was living in Lahore for a bit, that the importance of family, and when you're living together as a whole holistic family, not just your
Immediate family.
immediate family.
Yeah.
So you realize the importance of that, and when you're far, because of that the love increases.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so it's almost like we missed you guys more since we were at such a distance.
Oh yeah.
So I guess that's what you were getting at.
So that's
there.
the pro.
That's
That's the con.
It's both, I guess. So it has its ups and downs.
It has ups and
At least we get to come down here and catch up with you guys, and it's always like so fun because there's so much to catch up about.
Oh yeah,
You know,
definitely.
and we have such different perspectives, so there's so much to learn from each other.
Definitely. I mean, this time it was like so amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Like it
yeah.
was so different because I think we've caught up after quite some time now.
Yeah,
After
yeah.
quite a few years.
And it's a lot going on right now.
A
You
lot,
know,
a
you
lot.
just got married. You
Alhamdulillah.
know, and
Alhamdulillah.
you know we've already congratulated you for that. So that's
Yeah.
great that happened. I
You
got
just got
engaged.
engaged, man.
Yeah.
Congrats
so
on that once again.
Thank you, thank you,
May
thank
Allah
you.
subhanahu wa ta'ala bit
Hopefully it
barakah
goes
and
amazing
inshallah.
for both of us. But you know, it's just
Ameen.
keeping in mind to do what we can in our hands and leaving the rest to
God.
the world and God.
Yes,
So
definitely.
yeah. And then you know, by the age of 12, I kind of moved back
Hmm.
with the family, and it all happened so all of a sudden once again.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was
Like
just
you weren't prepared for it. At
yeah,
all.
it was just so random. And then when we were there, all my friends were like, "What the hell, man?"
Oh.
You know, it's like, how would I know? You know, it's like this kid is.
And
12
I would
years
definitely
old.
want you to put some light on that. How is it like for you to like literally leave your life behind and go from one place to completely another,
Yeah.
state?
That again, it has its pros and cons. You know, it's one thing that it teaches you to do is make friends. You know how to make friends. What's the most efficient way? What's the best way? Not just to
But
impress
this time you were not
people.
born into it. You had to like do this. You had to go through the struggles. And
I had, because for a period of time when we moved there, it felt like I was depressed for a while. You know, that's how it felt. It was like I was going to school, but I was not enjoying
And those, I
myself.
feel like those are the initial stages that a lot of people go through. Pretty much
Yeah.
everybody who moves.
Yeah.
Because initially, obviously, you have to go through that phase.
Right, and that's what really kind of taught me. You know, it's like, what are you doing? You need to make friends. You know, you're throwing your life away on this just because of this one thing that you moved over here. There's so much opportunity over here. Why are you not taking advantage of that? You know, and why are you being so immature about this whole situation? You know, and eventually you kind of just have to get over that.
I mean,
to
that
survive.
does remind me of the saying, if when you change your perspective about looking at things, the things you look at change. So
Exactly.
you did change the perspective, and then things started.
Well, it kind of changes itself, you know. It just came to me. It was like, what are you, like, the questions popped up in the head. It was like, what are you doing? You know, and it was kind of like a self-reflection. And, you know, there would be moments where there was this one very memorable moment where I was, I guess, sad for a while, upset for a while, and my brother and family decided to surprise me with something. And we were living at the apartments at that time. And you know, they were like, go get the groceries from the car. And I was like all whiny about it. Like, no, I don't
Did they
wanna
get you a
do it.
car?
This and that and this. No, they didn't get me a car, but I was all whiny about it, right? It's like, okay, go get in this area seriously, you know? So, you know, I went downstairs all reluctantly and stuff like that. I opened the trunk and there was a brand new Xbox in there.
Oh yeah, well, you were quite young. Back then.
Yeah, there was a brand new Xbox in there. It was a 360. And that
At that
Xbox
time-
and I have went through a lot. So you know, and it was just one of the happiest, like one of the most memorable days. It left a big impression on me.
Oh yeah.
So you know, it came back. I
can
was
relate.
smiling. There was a huge smile on my face. I was looking at my family.
Once
like,
I had typhoid, I still remember those days, and then I was sick on this in those days, and my family had gotten me, I think, a PS3 was really in those days. So I still remember that, and I was like so happy. I was like, okay, I need to get
those
sick
things
again.
that parents did for us, you know.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
definitely.
And there was a reason we were so psyched about these things too, you know. It was just, it provided us with adventure in a way, you know. These games that we got lost in these worlds, like Call of Duty or whatever, Assassin's Creed, you know. If you play the trilogy, what a story, man, you know. So you can really pass.
With the Jubba I'm launching from that.
Yeah.
It's like literally I got influenced that. I mean, there are always positive takeaways even from the games as well. I predicate a lot about on this point that there's this digital era is kind of ruining the children's mind, because one of the reasons is they're not looking at it the way they should be looking at it. But then there's a lot of positive takeaways that they can have it, because there are a lot of brain games. There are a lot of, like, we used to play Wii. I still remember, and I used to love how to play golf, and I used to have the Wii remote, and I used to play golf in my home.
Imagine just starting a kid out with something virtual, and then getting them in the field properly after that. At least they get introduced to it in a way. So no, definitely, that was definitely, and that's the thing, that day, I was smiling when I came back. I went into the bathroom, and there were tears of joy coming out of my eye. I was like, why it had such an impact on me? Maybe because, I was so upset for such a while and something big had happened.
Yeah.
So it
So
was
like, how did the transitional shift started happening? Gradually, you started making friends.
yeah. So gradually, just had to kind of start putting myself out there.
Mm-hmm.
Had to be like, and it was scary. It was just like, you're gonna make mistakes. These things are gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, it wasn't as scary as you made it out to be.
So
You
you
know,
think it out to be really scary, but in reality, when you face it,
yeah,
it's
it's not as bad as your
thinking.
imagination. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, because it's so unknown to you, so
Mm-hmm.
you think the worst of it, and in your head you make the worst of it.
Yeah.
But
And because you're procrastinating too much on it, so you're kind of making a big deal out of it.
yeah, maybe it's building.
Yeah.
Who knows? So it tends to be that way. We tend to imagine it, like we tend to imagine those things in a way that
The worst case scenario.
the worst case scenario,
and, like-
and it comes in handy sometimes for us to think that way.
At
Um,
times.
It wasn't the case though. It was a lot easier than people might think, because everybody has mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Nobody's perfect, And
So like,
they're
how
all-
did you start off? Like, how did that? You started suppressing that fear, or like, how did you face those fears? And how did you start, making friends over there, or naturally settling in the States initially? After that, when you started going out a bit,
yeah, I mean, just making, just trying to make friends,
having
going.
conversations.
Yeah, basically just trying to just go walk up to somebody even, if that wasn't done before, at least I did that, at least I, with the intent of going to talk to them and like maybe build a relationship with them. If you're too afraid of doing that, then what are you not too afraid to do? What's in your hands? What can you do?
So I kind of feel like that made a lot of your character and gave you the courage you
to
have
face things,
Yeah.
So and like one step at a time, taking baby steps.
Gradually.
That's what probably works for people, even when they're afraid of anything. Can you at least imagine being in a good relationship? Can you at least imagine being in that elevator? We were talking about that, right? People are afraid of elevators. Can you at least imagine? Can you look at it from 10 feet away?
Yeah, small progressions like
Yeah. So start with that, whether you're having trouble sleeping, whether you're having trouble with whatever, that is your best shot at getting over whatever it is. It may not be, you may not get over it. That's still your best shot at getting over it.
So like, okay, you're settled there, you start making friends. Get into a bit in comparison to the life over there as compared to the life you spent over here. A bit, put some light on that. How would you,
Well, obviously, like I said, it's very clean over there. It was always very structured. It was easier for us to build up to a certain goal.
So you'd say like you had more responsibility over there compared to over here.
As a kid, no. We still went to school, and there were more services provided to us over there. Like the bus came and picked us up, took us to school. And no, there wasn't that much, especially thanks to my family as well. There wasn't much hardships or responsibilities that I had as a kid.
But as moving on,
it's just they had more responsibilities, especially like my mother. She worked.
Compared to living like my own personal perspective, what I feel like is that when you're in Pakistan, we have this culture now. We have quite a few helpers in the middle upper class families. They have helpers, and then they have a lot of people helping them out with their chores, and then a lot of their stuff is getting done.
It's not over there. Yeah, in that sense for sure. Yeah, in that sense for sure, we were more independent and responsible.
Yeah,
because
you're like mom's working.
Yeah,
your dad's working.
Exactly.
They've got their working hours, and then you're going to school. You're doing your own stuff. You're not. It's like your laundry's not getting done itself.
That was one of my responsibilities, laundry, doing the laundry. You had to put the clothes in the laundry and then put it in the dryer, and then they would fold it, So we had to.
And I would really like to predicate
the chores like that.
About on this point that, one of those Navy SEALs motivation speech always used to say, like, whenever you get up in the morning, start off by making your bed. And he said in our Navy SEAL training, they used to tell us that even like he's a Navy SEAL, but look at how little thing he's pointing out, just that little of a thing, because he's telling us that the little things do matter. It was like at the end of the day, when you've had a bad day, you go out, you maybe things don't work out in as you imagine them to be. But at least when you come home to a made bed, you're like, okay, at least I made that bed. I had the
It seems so mundane, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you do it every day, you kind of get tired of it. Eventually, you're like, what's the point of this? You know,
Yeah.
it's like, it's just so much effort for just this one little thing. And the thing that people don't realize is that it adds up.
It adds plus because it's like the psychological benefit you get of doing the first thing initially when you woke up. You did the first thing that came to your head. So now you're ready to take on the little things that come ahead, and you're like, I got this thing done, so I can hopefully get the things that the other things done as well that'll come ahead that I'll face in the day.
Right, right. It gives you more like confidence to kind of just be like, okay, at least I accomplished something. I cleaned up my little area that I occupy. You know, in this certain way, and then I can move on, and it's gonna benefit everybody. It's gonna benefit me especially. You know, when I come back to that clean bed, like you said, and then you waking up the next day and doing it, and then waking up the next.
With Denzel Washington's, he always, when I was listening to one of his speeches, he used to say that when you wake up in the morning and you get off the bed, so your slippers should be underneath your bed. So you have to bow down to get those slippers out, and you realize that the importance of life and the importance of gratitude, and that who are you in reality, and you're doing your own stuff and you're getting those slippers out yourself, and like you're realizing what, like, because at times you have to remember that we humans need to have a respect, but at the same time we need to have this empathization factor that we are not everything, and we have a certain
don't be so self-absorbed to expect everything to be given to you.
Yeah, to like take those slippers out yourself.
Do it yourself. Go get your own water, for God's sakes. You know
I
what I'm
feel
saying?
like this one thing, these things get engraved because of the culture we have in compared to Pakistan. When a person shifts to the States, like these things would have definitely, because being more responsible in the little things, doing your own chores.
That's the thing. One of the rules in psychology is to never help your client do something they can do for themselves. So what you need to teach them is to do it for themselves. That way they're a lot better than somebody that's given everything. You know what I'm saying? And even if you're given that, okay, kudos, you're given something that's great. If you could do it, if you could take it yourself instead of having people having to have people to hand it to you, if you get what I mean there, then you're a much better and more useful person.
Definitely, you feel more dominant about yourself. You feel like when you're doing it yourself.
Well, you're better for the community. You're picking up your own weight. If you cook your own food, and there should be certain aspects where you're picking up your own weight. Of course, family helps. You should have a wife that takes care of you, and you should also do whatever is within your power to make your life better.
What I came up with this formula that I realized कि Pakistan में, if you want to live over here ना, so we do have helpers and everything, but use that to your advantage.
Exactly.
Because what we do is that हम लोग helpers की help भी लेते हैं, and then we become lazy, lethargic, and we don't do anything. The goal is, if you're delegating something, like if I have someone to do my chores, then where else can I have the opportunity?
What am I doing?
Exactly. Where am I allocating that specific time? If I'm, because I used to predicate a lot on this point, because when I lived alone in Lahore, so I used to have this conversation with my mamu, and I was like, over here, so we're not even responsible. We don't do any stuff to ourselves. So he told me that point. Now today I realize that he said we have things to, if we take these things to our advantage, and if we learn the delegation part, अगर हम इन helpers को बताएं कि भाई आप हमें जैसे उन्होंने जिस चीज़ में हेल्प करनी है, फिर आप उस चीज़ को उस अपने बिजनेस में दिमाग लगा के उस टाइम को वहाँ यूटिलाइज करो, rather than just sitting yourself down and thinking कि भाई नहीं, this will be done itself as well. I mean, and like even if you're CEO,
and that factor is so big, like in places, it's like you're just waiting for something to happen.
Yeah,
it's like you're just chilling, and the people are doing it for you, and you give yourself this excuse, like it'll happen, and
because you become too dependent on that fact
you're
that
too hopeful. You're too hopeful.
It's not that good to be that hopeful.
Yeah.
So like even if you see a CEO, a true made entrepreneur. So okay, let's talk about. So an entrepreneur, when he sets up his business, it's not like the business was made just gifted to him.
Mm.
Not talking about one of those family chain businesses. I'm talking about an entrepreneur who's been made.
Yeah,
So he
yeah.
goes to the struggles, he goes to the ups and downs. वो हर एक चीज करके, you know, like
Like he
supposedly,
knows like the value of
yeah,
it.
like supposedly if I have this gym, right? So I have gone through that struggle, alhamdulillah, like, you know, doing the studies and starting off as a trainer, realizing the importance of fitness, then, you know, helping the clients, and now in the gym there's so many other things you need to, now I have to, 'cause I can resonate with everyone. I can resonate with the trainers that I've hired, what phase they are in, because I was in that phase.
Right.
I have done my own, I used to shoot my own videos, I still do at times, and I don't feel even bad about it, because I'm willing to do the lows and the highs for my business, because I know when, you know, like, I'm doing it for the greater good. And I don't feel like I realize this thing when you become more responsible, and you realize there's no such thing as a big thing, as a big task or a small task. It's a task. If you have to get it done, and if there's nobody that can get it done, you do it for yourself. If you're doing it for the future investment of your business.
Well, there is such a thing as priority, you know. So the things that you should focus on are the things that are the most important to you and your family.
Definitely.
And but there's definitely that aspect of, you know, if there's something to be done, then do it. You know what I'm
because
saying?
I was just like, the point I was making is, okay, no matter what kind of task it is, you have to, if you want to get it done, and there's nobody get it, and if it's a small task, matlab, you know, I have to get the gym cleaned, even if I have to wipe my own gym. I'm willing to do that if the helpers aren't there, because it, for me, the work.
Well, it's not too. So what you're saying is, it's not, you're not too good for that type of work. If it comes down to it, like, you know, even over there, like, you know, there's a lot of kids that are like, I'm too good to work at McDonald's.
Yeah.
I'm too good. I'm too, you know, it's beneath me.
Yeah.
You know, is it really?
Is it really?
Is it really?
Is it
It's
really?
so important. You know, they think they're too cool
Definitely.
to clean.
Yeah,
And to make money for their family and
every
themselves.
single thing in life teaches you something.
Yeah.
If you look at it that way. Again, about the perspective thing. Do you remember that movie? Apna, so jisme, you know, there's Jackie Chan, and the Kung Fu movie in which he teaches him, you know, he makes him do the warp stick every day.
Oh, the Karate Kid.
The Karate Kid.
Yeah.
So in which he gives him the stick to clean the place every day, and he's like, yeah, what is this? What kind of master or sensei is this? He just makes he wants to get the place clean from me, or to kuch karata nahi, he's just getting his work done, and then but then when, you know, the things start unraveling, and then when, you know, he hits, so he does that. Would you rabbit? He was using the mob, so he slides in
the same way.
In the same way.
Yeah.
So then he realizes how he was teaching.
Incorporates that into his fighting style.
So everything, I feel like, everything that we go through, like whether it's in the States, whether it's working in the McDonald's, it's working at McDonald's, or, you know, driving an Uber, whatever. Try and be open to it. That's one thing I've learned. That when you're open to experiences, you learn so much out of them.
Right. No, if you're not open, then, you know, you're pretty self-absorbed. If you're there is such thing as being too open, but there's definitely a certain degree of openness you have to have.
You need to have
yourself.
that balance. But definitely, what about you? Like, when you got there, did you work part-times at places? Tell us about.
Yeah. Well, first there was this point when I was talking about, you know, how I was upset when I went back. That was almost like that. I wasn't open to trying new experiences, you know. I was so self-absorbed, like, why is this happening to me, playing the victim?
Yeah.
You know, like, why me? You know, why me? Woe is me. What about my family, dude? What about my community? You know? And what about myself for real? Like, you know what I'm saying? Is this complaining gonna help me in any way? Is me whining about this gonna help me make friends, help me get a job? No. So it's like you almost have to see what's above you. Like that, like, so, you know, when you're in a family dynamic, before a family, you kind of only care about yourself. The hallmark of maturity is when
from that selfish
there's
stage
something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to realize there's something bigger than yourself, and that's more motivating than just merely you.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, you know, there were some jobs.
Because you have more to look forward to. You have more. You have more people to do things for rather than just yourself.
Yeah.
So that's like the bigger vision or the picture that you're getting into the maturity
If you're
phase.
too self-absorbed, for sure.
Hmm.
You know, if you're too self-absorbed, that's definitely a good perspective to kind of hold.
Yeah.
And you know, there were times that I had jobs there. I worked at FedEx
Okay.
office, print and ship center for maybe 2.5 years.
Oh, that's quite some time.
Yeah.
How'd that work out for you?
That was a learning experience, man. It was easy at first. It was pretty easy. Um, when we were basically when I started, they saw that I was a people's person. It was how good I was at dealing
Communication.
with people.
Mm.
So they put me in the front line of like interacting with people and
Going and delivering
did that every day, and it got harder and harder and harder, and eventually I started avoiding that, you know.
Uh-huh.
And then I started working on other places, and then eventually that got harder and harder and harder and harder, so I went to another. But you know, you learned a little bit of each, a little bit of something from all of those
Say.
jobs. So no, that was a good experience. We worked in teams of 2 to 3 people, and just learned how to work with one another. And it's definitely a lot harder to do that when you're trying to have an objective view,
Mm.
you know, because you need to be sure that whatever you're doing is accurate. Otherwise, it will come and bite you in the butt.
So let's get a bit into the main topic, which is psychology, the human psychology, and a bit like what are you doing right now, and what are your interest and inclination towards maybe human psychology, and what's your plan further in regards to this certain niche? Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, psychology is like the study of the mind, right, and the behaviors of people.
Mm.
Like what part of the mind influences what behavior. There's a lot to psychology. Psychology is
Definitely.
such an abstract thing. You can dive into whatever subject with psychology. So the thing about psychology is that one of the interesting things about it is what my professor mentioned. He talked about people who had PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people that have PTSD over here that need treatment because they're so traumatized from the experiences they've had in war and such. So those people, they really need help, and they need therapy to get over whatever memory they're stuck on, whatever traumatic experience. And the job of the
flashback that they're
psychologist,
having
yes, because it's
from the war experiences.
right, because it's keeping them from living the most optimal life that they could. So basically, you would help them unravel their story. You would sit there for hours and let them talk about it, because they don't really have anybody to talk about it. You know, that's the problem, or anybody professional to talk about it that would give them advice with due caution. So they're just never getting out of that rut. And sometimes people grow up in families where they've only been lied to. You know, they've never been told
The truth.
and their perspective of life is so skewed because of that they can never live properly.
Can you
know, there's-
tell me a bit like why the inclination towards psychology, and what do you feel like the need and the importance of psychology in today's society? That is.
well, a lot of people seem to think that mental health problems aren't real. You know, it's like, and they also seem to think that they're too good for therapy. You know, it's like everybody's kind of messed up in their own ways. You know what I'm saying? You gotta admit,
Yeah,
everybody has
definitely.
their problems, and
Everybody.
everybody has problems that they could do something about.
Yeah.
And those are the things that, you know, we should really be focused on. Like, what's the point of focusing on something that's out of your hands? You know?
Circle of concern versus
Yeah, so
circle of
you have to
influence.
always bring the blame towards yourself, really, or the responsibility towards yourself. It's like, this is happening in the world. Okay, what are you doing about it? You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay,
But then there are
it
some people
sucks.
who are just pointing out the problems, and there's some people who are actually doing something.
Yeah,
about it.
some people are just complacent. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is happening. Woe is me. The victim mentality. It's like, what's the point of that? You know, it's not really helping you. It's not really helping your community. It's not helping anybody. So how about just focus on what's in your hands? And it's a lot easier to focus on what's in your hand as well, because you're thinking that you need to fix all these things when you can't even do that. You can't fix all of that. You know, especially if you have all of that in your mind, you can focus on one thing at a time.
You have to like prioritize and schedule, and I think the first and foremost step is obviously you have to start within. You have to resolve your own stuff that that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
And if you do that, then you're going to be a lot more useful to yourself and your family and your community. if you fix yourself, you know,
Yeah.
instead of always trying to fix people, you know what I'm saying? Look within.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's your dad that's annoying you or he's the problem, it's like, you know, look, try to be like, what can I do about
Oh,
this?
yeah, definitely.
You know, and if there's nothing you can do about it, then just hope for the best. You know, it's out of your hands. You know, what's the point? And you know, being too good for therapy, that's just like, really, like, just you're the perfect person. You're so perfect that you don't need therapy.
I just kind of feel like therapy, the word therapy made it so cliche that, you know, when anybody hears therapy, they're like, oh, it's therapy. But if we take
like
it
you
in,
got to be insane to go to therapy or something.
yeah, if we take it in layman terms, I mean, therapy is just, you know, like, again, it's about resolving your own issues. That's therapy.
Right.
People look at it as such a cliche that, oh God, this, that's just like you said, this guy's insane. He's
Yeah.
going to a psychologist. And that misconception, I feel like, is so much
Yeah.
in our culture, in our societies. In the States, it's been, I kind of feel like, because over there, I feel like psychologists are quite a lot and they are working on this regard. Over here, I kind of feel like, again, this is an issue that is being raised gradually, but it needs much more attention.
Yeah.
Because again, you know, mental health is not looked at how
No,
important
because
of a
if
factor
we
it
if
is.
we all individually, you know, came together to fix our own problems, then as a community, we'll be a lot better.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
definitely.
Because it starts with the individual, right? It doesn't really start with the community. You can't just change everybody at once. Everybody can change themselves, though. You know?
Yeah.
So you know, just and that way you know what you can change. That way you understand what's in your hands. That way you understand your strengths as well. You know, because you're kind of experimenting with it. It's like, where do I fall short? Where do people think that I'm talented and this and that, or like where am I even seemingly talented? You know, and maybe is that the direction that I should go in, because it seems like if I did this, then it would help the world out a lot more.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah,
I
man.
kind of feel like, you know, that chain of thought or structure of thought has already been so taken out. I mean, we don't even think about how maybe we can actually benefit the world. We always, you know, I kind of feel like fall upon the point ke, what is it what's in it for me? That's why I kind of feel like we never move beyond us.
Yeah,
And
and it's good to have like a healthy ego, you know.
Yeah,
It's
healthy
good.
ego.
Yeah, it's good to have like, look, your limits. You should have your own limits, you know. There should, because there's things that are gonna take you off. You're also human. You
Yeah,
need to realize
definitely,
that. As long as it's not too inflated, you know.
Mm.
Then you're self-absorbed, narcissistic. Think you deserve more than you actually do.
Mm.
Feel entitled.
Mm.
Blame other people because you're not living the life that
Yeah.
you know you think you're supposed to live,
Mm.
but you're not really supposed to live that life at all. You just think you deserve a lot more, even when you haven't put in the work to deserve that.
Definitely.
You know.
It's all about, you know, like, are you running the day or is the day running you? You know, what are you falling prey towards? And if the day is running you,
and it's, you always fall prey towards your biggest weakness.
yeah,
You know, that's always something you need to have a check on. Like, you know, it's like if you're eating a little bit of like some chips every week, you know what I'm saying? And that's like, you can kind of see that it's kind of hindering your life in such a way that's not good. Then you can stop that, you know, and you'll live a lot more optimal
you know,
life.
we have covered that in, like, you know, when we study nutrition, they cover nutritional psychology. There's so much to you know, like, get into in this regard, is that there's it's all about eating patterns, but it's also about the nutritional behavior and the psychology we have towards things.
Yeah.
Because we develop certain patterns and behaviors, and you know, then, you know, you talk about the fat stigma there is about certain things, that, you know, good fats and the bad fats, and also about, you know, what kind of personality we're shaping up. Like, we have to term certain foods that are bad and certain foods that are good. So a lot of nutrition has to do a lot with your psychology of how you think about food as well.
Yeah, what's good and what's bad.
Yeah,
to
because if
eat.
you subliminally already think if it's gonna be bad, even something good, because you're gonna push yourself away from it, you know. So you have to subliminally understand the good in it, like
The bigger picture.
the bigger picture, and you
Yeah.
have to subliminally understand it. Like, there's a nutritional psychology towards it. Once you do that, then you'll be more inclined to have that certain food or that certain food.
Exactly. So it's like, if you cut that chip out this week, you'll be less inclined to have it next week.
Yeah.
If you don't, you'll be more inclined to have it
Definitely.
that next week. So you always have to pay attention to that. And in terms of dietary advice, what would you say to people that can't get a handle on their weight because of food? What would you say, like, their misconceptions are about food, especially because there's a lot of people here that are unhealthy about their diet, and it's like they're not being able to get out of that rut.
I mean, the only simple conclusion I always say is, are you eating to live or are you living to eat? It's really simple if you put it in that perspective, because I believe.
Well, the thing is, it's like they're not gonna enjoy eating healthy the first, 3
That's what I'm
months.
just getting into that. I believe there's such a big misconception over here that people think that healthy food is not tasty, and that directs to your nutritional psychology. If you've already made a perception about a pizza is good, so definitely it's gonna be.
Well, it's because you're used to pizza. You're used to eating it, and so when the next time you want to change your diet, you want to have eggs the next morning for the first time instead of cereal.
Yeah.
You're gonna be like, what the heck? You know what I'm saying? Even if you're like, okay, I'm gonna go in, like, thinking that this is gonna be savory and tasty, isn't there still gonna be that feeling?
It is.
Yeah.
So this is where the baby progressions come in. Take small steps. You're eating a pizza, go towards a steak. You're eating a steak. I mean, steak is good, right? So the thing is, the food, moving past onwards, the nutritional psychology, the food itself can be healthy and tasty at the same time. But the only problem is where the people or the society is so lazy. Like in the States, I see so many people experimenting with food. Like we were given Bani Israel. In the Quran states that Bani Israel was given Manu Salwa. It's certain things that they used to be really unthankful about the things that they have been given, and God gave them so much. That is where all the spices came in. Like that was the moment, because they were like, we want more. They got so used to that certain food, certain foods that we have. Like if we keep eating biryani every day, we're like, okay, we need something else. So they got used to those things,
Yeah.
So when God gave Manu Salwa, and there were certain spices that came about. Those spices are the initiation of every certain food that we make now. Because agar you're making a gravy, or you're making some koi a desi salan or something, you're putting all those spices in it to make it more tasty. Just like that, you see a lot of people in the States, they have so many YouTube channels of how there's a channel named Tasty as well, and then there's other channels as well, how they're experimenting with food. So the problem over here is that people do not want to take out the time either. So we are at the age of convenience, and we just want to order. Plus,
there's an occasion like every other day over here, right? Like,
Yeah.
even when it's not wedding season,
Yeah.
there's some events going on, and everything is so easily available. Even when you go into like stores and stuff like that.
Definitely on the take back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the first and foremost, which is the most important thing, nutritional psychology. We were on that topic.
Yeah. So we were talking about nutritional psychology and how there's occasions like every other day over here.
Yeah.
And I was just asking you, what tips would you give to people that, that go to these events every time and they can't stop themselves from having the foods and drinks over there?
Okay, the first problem is where you approach that they can't stop themselves. They need to get that right, that they can stop themselves, firstly. Secondly, I always say for these events there is always certain preparation that you can do. Like supposedly I know that there's a dawat or there's a family function that I'm going to have today. So if I know for sure, you never know for sure what kind of food there's going to be over there. Sometimes there's healthy food over there as well. You all do have healthy choices, but we tend to go towards unhealthy choices.
Yeah.
So if you have healthy choices, go for those.
It's like people have no knowledge of what type of nutrition they should be eating. Even when they're at the weddings, they don't know how much of each thing they should have. They don't know the portions for their body type. Whatever they're trying to do. Maybe I should go less on carbs and eat more meat, but they'll still grab like 4 pieces of bread. It's in their hands. It's always there. The salan roti is always there. The chicken is always there. It's just what you're choosing to eat out of that.
Because there's always few tips and tricks you can take over there. Firstly, though, you'll see always, most of the time I've seen there is a salad at times in the shadi functions, the dawats, but nobody touches it. So people choose not to touch it. So that's their issue from the first hand.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to go all out and then you have to be prepared for the circumstances that you're going to face. first and foremost. Secondly, it's all about, that again, the psychology. So if you look at nutrition now, either you go for a short term pleasure or long term pleasure. Like literally, even in like ये हलक होती है, this is your neck वाला जो जिससे
Adam's apple.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. Like Adam's apple, look at that. It's gonna go from here to here. And look at that's so beautiful. Everything started from that, जो दरख्त से सेब गिरा,
Adam and Eve, yeah.
and आदम अलैहिस्सलाम को अब जो भी इंटीग्रिटीज हैं, some people say बीबी हवा ने उनको बोला, some people say उन्होंने कहा, but nonetheless food की अगर आप देखो बात करो तो he ate it, and then so that's why they say कि food जो है ना, it literally it goes down from there, and then and anything and everything that goes, just you break it down into pieces and it's the same and it goes down.
Yeah.
In the sense,
So you
the
are
taste
what
is still here.
you are what you eat type
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah, the taste is still here. Like the taste we develop, the taste we have for so many things, like
Yeah.
you wanna eat this, it's still here. After this, the taste is gone. Taste. So basically, I always talk about, when I talk about nutrition and nutrition psychology, I talk about short term versus long term.
So why the importance on taste?
Why? Because that's what the problem is, na. We are people who want immediate satisfaction, and we're not willing to forego it for long-term results. If you're gonna eat, something that is a cheat meal or something that is not as healthy, so you're gonna feel. You're gonna feel good because of the taste just at like a few seconds, and when it's gonna go down, you're gonna feel lazy, you're gonna feel lethargic, you're gonna feel bad about yourself. So those things you're not gonna take under account. But when those are gonna happen, then you're gonna feel like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have done that.
So does that not kind of affect our, because these are our family members that do this. You see often that our family members, they're always going for these foods. They don't have the willpower, or they don't think they have the willpower to stop themselves from doing this. Doesn't that affect your whole family dynamic and make them older quicker, more lazy and lethargic, and like that really affects the family system, doesn't it?
Definitely. And I was just about to get into the family system thing. That's what the whole problem is. Our whole culture in Pakistan, it's engraved and it's dependent upon the foods that we have. It can be you can take advantage of it at the same time if we take actually real means to take the advantage of it, if you're mindful about your eating. Like salan roti अगर हमारे इसमें चलता है, तो you can be mindful in regards to you can cook the salan in olive oil, or you can use water instead. Now people are like, really, water के साथ आप बना सकते हो? Yes. Have you tried it? If you've tried, then you would know, because these are things that my clients have tried and tested.
Yeah,
and
my mother, she usually is like, there's barely any oil in this. There's mostly water, so you don't need to worry about it. I'm just like, there's so much there's so much oil. Because it always looks like there's a lot of oil in there.
Yeah.
But
so,
some people make it without that.
Yeah, so those are the small, tips and tricks in the desi households, how you can implement them. To get that out of the way, go for more, vegetables, go for more fruits, and go for chicken. But just like, don't go for too much bingy stuff,
I mean, the problem is, and the solution almost is that it's so savory.
Yeah.
All our foods are so tasty.
It
so
comes
it's
back
hard
to that.
resist.
It comes back to that, thing where, because, like, the brand of my brand is Tap Ratters, and the tagline is Where Fit Be Fit. And the health brand that I plan to start in the future, the tagline I want to keep is Eat Fit Be Fit. But the inner focus of that Eat Fit Be Fit tagline would be that food can always be tasty and healthy, but you need to be cautious, and you need to be able to take out time for that commitment, because that's a commitment. You cannot just depend on, although now there are food chains that have started, healthy food chains there are over there, they're working on this, so you can even order healthy stuff, and which is tasty as well. So either you can cook it at your own home.
It's usually not McDonald's to blame, it's usually your choice of eating too much McDonald's that's to blame. Like you can have a little bit, like maybe occasionally, even that, that's okay to have. It's just when you have these tasty things like every day, then even the taste loses its
Detroit.
It value. Like it's like
Devalues.
highs, it's like when you build your tolerance up too much to get high when you're smoking or whatever, then it's like it takes more for you to get high.
Definitely.
It takes more savory food for you to be satisfied.
Definitely.
And our food is already so savory, so there's really the point is for us
because our taste buds and our taste, the fleeks are so high already that we're so used to that certain taste that anything we eat below that, doesn't satisfy her. That's where the nutritional psychology comes in. You have to tell your mind that firstly the perspective needs to be an open-minded perspective, and then you need to be open to trying out different stuff. Experimenting.
That's
definitely
so important.
You know, me as a person, I was a really strict. Even when I used to go through the States, I used to have this problem of, एक तो there's problem of halal and haram, but the second problem was of not eating other stuff. जैसे fish जो है, I wasn't that used to it. I used to always have cheese pizza. Like me being a fitness enthusiast back then.
You one time ordered cheese pizza at a Red Lobster.
Yeah.
Which was so
because obviously
weird.
they have that's their main dish, and but that's what I'm trying to get at is what I learned out of that as well. When I tried fish for the first time, or even when I didn't used to try Chinese, and when I tried Chinese for the first time, the thing was that day I was so hungry, excuse me, that I needed something to eat. I mean, that's what we say now. When you're hungry, you give him anything. You give us anything to eat, you will eat it because you're so hungry. So I was so hungry. We tried out Chinese food.
You basically get desperate.
Yeah. So we tried out Chinese food. We tried out Chinese food, and I was hungry. So that was one of the factors.
Satisfied that urge. So you were like, okay, this food is good enough.
Because of my openness to trying it out, I loved it.
Yeah.
And I started loving Chinese. Just like that, same happened with the fish as well.
Yeah.
So there's so many stuff that in the world, there's so much food, there's so much. वही Banu Salwa से शुरू हुआ था. There's so much masalas and things that God has gifted us with. Variety. Because just look at the things that are coming out of the earth.
Right.
That we can eat.
Because people seem to think that they can't eat what they want. You know what I'm saying? That's not true.
Yeah.
There's so many options out there, you know. If you don't like that, then choose this, Go towards the side you're more inclined to try. Even, it's the same as like when people study, it's like, be an engineer. It's like engineer is very broad. You can be an engineer in a lot of aspects. So and you need to maybe be an engineer for your community and yourself and to make a living.
Sorry for interrupting, लेकिन वो engineers में मुझे याद आया कि there was a teacher of ours and he introduced us and like a year ago he introduced me to someone like he's a 20-year-old engineer. I'm like, no, I'm not an engineer. I haven't done my A-levels yet.
So there was some time left.
Everyone's an engineer.
Everyone's an engineer.
तुम्हारा ड्राइवर क्या करता है? तुम्हारा ड्राइवर कौन है? मैं बोला, I don't know. He's a mobility engineer.
Definitely.
That's a way to put it. I mean,
if you look at things like that, you can put a lot of different professions into different circumstances.
I mean, real engineers, their knowledge of how to fix machines is a lot higher than just driving a car.
But he's just giving an analogy, basically.
Yeah.
Plus, there's such depth to the field because 3 years back I heard one of my family members, they were doing in Australia, they were doing a PhD on the movement of ants. And when I asked him, why such a very specific field and a PhD on that,
it would seem like
Then he's like, we make robots out of those. So he's done mechanical engineering, and now he's pursuing PhD in the movement of ants because the movement of ants
imitates.
That, we can imitate that into robotics and into AI.
So learning from nature.
Yeah, because how articulate the ants. Like वो देखो ना जो कौन से हजरत का वाकया था जब हजरत सुलेमान तो जब उनकी वो आई थी तो एंड सेट कि वी नीड टू बैक अप वी नीड टू हाइड इन आवर बिकॉज़ अल्लाह वो हजरत सुलेमान की वो आ रही है फौज आ रही है तो बट द थिंग इज दे आर सो आर्टिकुलेटेड इन स्टफ हाउ दे डू इट दे आर सो एक लाइन में चलना खाना जिस तरीके से लेके जाते हैं उनको एक एंड्स की स्टडी एंड इट्स डेफिनेटली दिस गुड दैट यू रेज दिस अप बिकॉज़ इट ब्रिंग्स मी टू द क्वेश्चन ऑफ एनिमल साइकोलॉजी. There's being so much research done on how animal behavior. I was even seeing Robert Peterson's video and a few of Mind Valley's videos in which he was saying that how they're studying and researching on animals and how there's certain animals whose behaviors we imitate.
Evolutionary, we even derived from some of these animals, according to science, evolutionary biology.
Because basically, we have an animal instinct. All like like a mother's animal instinct turns on when her baby's in danger.
Right.
She's gonna go like literally.
We're like animals, We're obviously more complex than them.
That's why
and
we call-
different than them. Like we can project ourselves into the future way more than they
In the
can.
Quran, that's why we're known as Ashraful Makhluqat. It's like the combination and the best of the best, basically. So we can
Yeah.
transition to different genres of different things.
Yeah.
But the thing if I'm getting at is, ki, like, I think I mentioned this in one of the podcasts as well, ki, that mom, she knew, that was a study done that she knew that her baby was in danger. So the physical weight that she could actually handle, she handled more weight because of that, the cortisol factor that dropped in,
Yeah.
the fear hormone. And I would
Right.
like to put some,
And
let's
that
talk.
doesn't just always activate. It only activates when it's
It is,
needed.
We were studying the psychology of like 3S: flight, freeze, and fight.
Flight, fear,
And fight.
fight,
So-
yes, fly.
If someone's like, if a lizard comes, so you see a lot of women freeze in the kitchen,
Yeah.
because they can't do it.
And they scream and ask for help. Yeah.
When my mom screams, I'm like, "Yaar, aap bhag sakti hai na?
Mm,
Just run
that's
away."
flight
And she
mode.
physically can't. Because
Yeah.
She's scared.
She's so
And then,
scared. She's so terrified that she can't even
One
move.
example that he gave was that there was a man on a wheelchair,
Mm.
and a robber came into his house, into his house, and he got up and he jumped the wall.
Really.
He
He
was
was
scared.
that terrified.
Yeah, so
that it
that's
made
what
him
your
move.
brain can
That's
make you.
What the brain power.
Yeah.
And this is where
Because the world will convince you. You know what
this
I'm
is
saying?
where, like, if we're talking about the brain, this is where the cortisol factor comes in. Joe Dispenza talks a lot on this factor, that people think that, whenever you talk about cortisol, it's taken as a fear hormone, and people always think of the cortisol as a negative perceptory factor in the brain stem, but it's not, because if you did not have cortisol, right, so you wouldn't have that fear instincts, and if we did not have that fear instinct, we wouldn't be living, we would be doing things that would just
get us
kill us.
killed.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So that's why that cortisol factor, it literally balances out the cortisol and the dopamine levels that are running in. So it's a really beautiful harmony, how
yeah.
the brain is working,
I
basically.
If it were-
book last month, and it was written by a prominent cancer doctor,
Mhm.
and because I was doing some research on a particular.
Do you remember his name?
Yeah, it was an Indian doctor, and his name started with Amjad.
Okay.
I'll send you the book link, and he talked about the number one cure for cancer is manifestation. He's saying if you have enough willpower, if you have enough willpower to manifest you're going to get better, and of course there's dua and everything, but he talked about a case where a man who was on his deathbed, he had this calendar on his hospital wall where a man was climbing mountain. He was like, I want to be that guy one day. And 2 months in, he was still on his what's that?
Deathbed.
Yes.
Bed.
So 2 months in, he got cured out of nowhere, and he had a brain cancer. And he talked about how manifestation is the number one cure for cancer.
No, that's the only way to get over any type of.
He talked about how the brain works and how it cures the body.
Yeah.
And how if you manifest something, if you want something really bad and you pray for it, because he was a Muslim, if you pray for it hard enough, and it's not your time yet, and you.
Well, if you face whatever you need to
yes,
face.
and it's written in your destiny, and it's your willpower that I'm going to do this one day. You can fight off anything.
So basically this goes back to the law of attraction. A lot of prayer that we make now, it's like the subliminal action that we're doing, that we're telling our brain that we want this. So it's then the laws of nature are working with us, for us. So basically there was this person, it reminded me of another example, who woke up after a coma, and he didn't remember anything about him. So they told him that you were this Navy SEAL, and you had a really amazing life and everything. 2 months in, he actually started behaving like that person. So basically your psychology is dependent upon what you basically manifest. That's why there's so much predication upon affirmations. Like when we used to, I have tried that a lot myself, and I have seen a lot happen in my life because of, like that's why dua and affirmation and all of these things are connected. We don't, there's science is exploring certain aspects still, but that's why, like, Quran, and जैसे हम लोगों को पहले से ही बता दिया कि make dua so much and at the time of tahajjud, because उस वक्त your brain, there is this term called hypnagogia. So your brain is at a stage in which you are transcending from your deep sleep to your REM sleep, your deep sleep, to the normal sleep cycle. So then the middle phase in which you're in, basically, that is a stage in which your subconscious mind is activated. So anything you feed that subconscious mind, it's going to believe. If your subconscious mind has engraved certain factors in it, it's going to tell your conscious mind how, it's going to make it happen. It's going to tell your conscious mind to do certain actions, and then the laws of nature are going to work for you, and then that thing happens.
Yeah, it's also about kind of like goal setting. You know, if you have a goal in mind and you go out to achieve that goal, the world will orient itself in a way to have you accomplish that goal.
If a goal inspires you, the whole world aspires to get you towards
To that,
goal.
yeah. And it's just like what he was saying, when you look at things differently, the things that you look at change.
Yeah.
So, you always have to have that. It's like, are you pursuing the right goal? Are you believing the right things? So that's always something that people need to be careful of.
I really need to bring a bit of focus towards, because that's one of the main pointers, firstly, short on time, the family systems, and a bit on psychology of family system, that plus how much communicating is important. Like you and I have realized, since you've been back from the States, we have had so much deep, depthful conversation, and we've spoken volumes. And we realized because of those conversations that because of communication, you feel the serotonin kicks in. You feel happy. You feel like, you've laid a burden out. Plus, if you're having a constructive argument, so it leads to certain solutions that you want your answers to.
That's one of the biggest things, because you kind of have to play out scenarios in your head in order to understand what those scenarios will do for you in the future.
Yeah.
So it's like when we communicate, we're talking about, I'll tell you a scenario and, how something goes, and you'll object to it in a certain way, and you will tell me that if you do this, then you're going to be lacking in this way, and if I can figure that out, then I can avoid that in the future.
Yeah.
So communicating is so crucial, and it also matters who you communicate with. If people are not listening to you, stop talking to them.
Definitely.
Go talk to somebody else
has
and
a
pay
big
attention
factor
to
over
them.
here.
See
Yeah.
what they're doing, see if what they're doing will help you, If you were wrong, maybe what they did was actually the opposite of what you predicted, and it actually helped them. You know what I'm saying? So you can learn something from just shutting up and paying attention to another
Definitely.
person. And then if you have something to say, then go say it to somebody. Like we talk,
'Cause,
I
like,
can't talk about everything we talk about.
The more you listen, the more you learn. So if you're listening a lot, there are certain times, I believe, where you should be listening, and there are certain times when you should be talking, because it goes hand in hand, basically.
Definitely. Because you need to have some sort of point of view for yourself as well.
Yeah.
So you have to express your thoughts in order to develop that point of view. And at the same time, you need to have a point of view other than your own, other people, so you don't get so self-obsessed with your own thoughts. So, if you want to ask for advice, go ask for advice from your dad or whatever. And if what you say upsets him to the core, then stop talking to him. Or because he's not going to listen, unless he's agreeing to listen, he's not going to listen. So you should only agree to things that you agree to, Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you half agree to it, and you're half reluctant to do it. So when you do it, you're crabby about it. You're like,
when you do it with an open heart.
Yeah, do it wholeheartedly. Yeah.
That's definitely, because that's making us go towards the family systems, and that's what I want to talk about. That the family systems in Pakistan, in the States, I mean, there's so much over here that I kind of feel like family systems over here lack communication a lot. And because of that lack of communication, they do not develop that relationship that families should have with one another. Because there's so much TV, there's so much drama, there's so much, digital devices on our hands that 24/7 we're on. We're literally with one another, but we're not with one another. You get what I'm saying? So that because of that,
there definitely needs to be a balance. Because there's experiences we need to have outside of our own family, and there's also experiences we need to have with our family.
So I kind of feel like that with our family, thing is lacking, because a lot of us have become dependent on just friends, because we do not getting the attention we need from our families. or not having the communication that we should be having. There are so many questions a teenager or an adult or a young boy has in regards to his life. There are serious questions that need to be addressed. But if she cannot talk about those things with his parents, with his siblings, with his peers, so then it can start suppressing.
Builds up, yeah.
It builds up, so which leads to a lot of problem. So that's why I kind of feel like family therapy and family systems psychology matters a lot, of how you need to, because when you communicate with one another, only then you realize how your family system works, how is that person, how does his certain behavior or his psychology work. And that is the point when you develop certain common grounds, and that is where you pick up the relationship up from, right?
Yeah, you have to get over the differences.
Yeah.
Like,
So you need to find common grounds.
Yeah.
Like supposedly, if I want to make good relationship, I have a really good relationship with my mother. So I need to find the common ground that
you have to be careful what you're agreeing to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that
don't
too.
find common ground unless you believe that's something that you should agree to. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes people will just do that because they think that it will increase their bonding.
Yeah.
Because your mom tells you something and she wants you to agree so bad. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
she thinks it's the best idea in the world, and she brings it to you, and you almost want to do it. Because she wants it so bad. And if you know in the back of your mind that
That it's
and
not,
you look at the bigger picture,
practically
that
it's
it's not going to be right if I lie to my mother about this. So that
Yeah.
helps you. That helps you stand up for
Sometimes
yourself
it's
and
really
say
good
no.
to be honest.
Very.
Really, like at times sometimes we
It's
need
one of
to,
the most difficult things to do.
Yeah.
Is to be honest. It's hard to be honest.
because then
man.
people start having expectations that they should not have from you, that you cannot keep up with, right? So you need to be really straight up and blunt about the things that you can or you
Yeah.
can't do,
Yeah.
specifically with your family in that regard. And I feel like because of how can we achieve that balance? That's the real question. How can you achieve balance in a family system that we have been brought up into? Because there's so much, again, like how I, alhamdulillah, have been trying to work it out is through, like, sabse pehle to there was, like, I know a time, everybody has a certain time in which most of the family people are going to be sitting. And everybody is going to be in front of everybody. So in that's your family time. Okay, now see what's happening in that family time. Okay, so in my case scenario, if my parents or if my family is watching TV, or some people are watching TV, some people are on the phone, I feel like there's less communication. So then I feel like the first thing I made them do is I said, obviously we can also watch TV together and engage. I'm not saying we can't, but first thing I felt like I could make them do is close the TV down, and just say, let's have a conversation. It's been some time. Let's talk.
Yeah.
And
There's some issues that we should maybe discuss.
And then second problem was with the phones, because everybody's on their phones at all times. Then we came up with a solution that, okay, be on your phone if it's something serious, or if it's business related, in that regard, if it needs serious attention. There are some families I know that even do not use their phones when it's their family time, and they have built up a lot because of those certain rituals that they've set. But I said,
That's the thing. There's definitely needs to be a limit
Structure.
on that.
Yeah.
The phones, especially with kids. As adults, we can somewhat trust each other to watch the right things and look at the right things when we're on our phones.
Yeah.
These kids,
There's so
they don't
much, like,
know what
freedom.
they're looking at.
You remember we used to be having the conversation about how the young kids in our households, because of we don't want to deal with kids. So what we do is, because the kid starts crying, and the first thing we know how we can get the kid off is by just
giving them what they want.
giving them
Exactly what they
and
want.
they're gonna see something that, like, supposedly on YouTube kids are seeing. We don't even have we can even fathom what YouTube and what certain videos are feeding our kids' minds, and what they're picking up from. And then we get surprised. Oh, what has happened to our kid? He didn't used to be like that. Look at his behavior.
And then they blame them.
So that's what the whole problem is. We need to take a step back. We need to realize where we're going wrong. Are we giving them the phones, or are we actually dealing with the problem? If the kid is crying, what can we do about it?
Like, that's the thing. It's like when you even tell somebody, it's like, get a handle on your kid. It's like, what am I gonna do? It's like, pick them up and put them somewhere else. They're kids. For God's sakes, don't tell them what to do. They're not gonna listen to
I
you.
was in a class, and it was like a parenting lecture वगैरह. I was one of the volunteers at the event, and there was a Q&A session going on, and one of the things the speaker said was कि यार a lot of parents tell their children यार इनके बेटे को तो देखो.
That's
And whenever parents
oh
tell
my
me that,
gosh, that's the
because he does not see,
worst.
so he's saying कि when parents come and tell me कि यार उनका बेटा ऐसा हमारा बेटा ऐसा, तो वो जब कहते हैं कि यार उनके बेटे को देखो, तो
That
he's
just
saying कि
happened, bro.
I say to them कि यार उनको ये नहीं कहो कि अपने उसको तो उनके बेटे को देखो,
Never
तुम
compare.
अपने बेटे को देखो, तुम अपने बच्चे को देखो. Rather than you tell them कि I idolize that person, you focus on your kid.
Yeah.
Because there's something wrong with him 90% of the ways because of you.
No, I mean that's what's in your hands, you know.
That
It's like,
kind of comparison kills the kid's personality right there, right then. When you do that kind of a comparison, that look at their kid, because your kid gets so demotivated because of that, rather
Well,
than
But
I may disagree to that because
but there's one thing too. Okay, now we see the tides changing, and there's like a lot of, not in Pakistan, but per se, but maybe the US, because I've been following probably, I don't know if you guys follow Steven Crowder or maybe
yes, louder with the crowd.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing that I see happening in those videos, and I see happening because he does a podcast and everything. What he says is, okay, now they're letting children choose their gender. So they're at 8, if a kid comes and says to you, okay, if a boy comes and says to you, I want to be a girl.
That's a big problem in
And
Canada.
Wow.
They're not, the parents are not allowed to say no.
what?
Otherwise, they'll be fined or
There's a law.
jailed.
There was actually a man jailed.
It would. They were mandating it.
In Canada,
That is so
there's-
wrong in so many ways.
In Canada, there's a recent case that came up.
Jordan Peterson is fighting against
A
that, like
person was
directly.
jailed. A guy was jailed. He was locked up for 6 months because he went to his doctors. His daughter demanded, I want to be a boy, and he told the doctor, don't do it because that's my kid. And the kid was like 8 years old.
Oh my
And
gosh, I can't
because-
believe he knows this.
Because I listen to this, and because I believe that a lot of people say, the West is better, they're more advanced. They're
In
advanced
ways, in some
in
ways.
some ways, yes.
Yeah.
But in these ways, because they're so advanced so much and they don't have anything else to do,
Yeah.
this is what they're doing right now.
Yeah, big problem right there because there's a lot of, double vasectomies and these operations they're performing on kids, and they're actually getting money for it. They're like
They're making business out of
they're
it.
making a business out of it. And it's like, how are people okay with this? How are their parents okay with this? You know what I'm
That's the
saying?
thing, they're
Like,
parents-
how are they letting the law, like tell them what to do? Why don't they? Because it's for the people, right? Like, that's what the American society was
Constitution
built
is
on.
based
It
on.
was for the people, so the people should step in and be like, no, that's not the law. There's somebody interfering with that stuff, and it's not right. And they have the police in their hands. They have these ways of suppressing all the noise and continuing whatever their agenda is, and it's
Acha,
so bad, man.
Because considering we're short on time, I really want to bring it back towards the family system psychology. Because what I want to put some emphasis over is that it's not easy. It's never easy to have. If you think, like one day you go and you shut the TV, or one day you go you shut the phone, and you're gonna start talking and you're gonna start resonating with one another, आपकी बहुत अच्छी connection हो जाएगी. No, it takes time. It takes so much time
and hard work.
Because first you have to empathize, you have to realize, you have to relate, you have to give time firstly, and you have to be patient for that person to connect with you, maybe your father, your brother, your sister, first and foremost. Secondly, I feel like, because in books you read in 7 Habits there were certain principles he tells you at the end of the book that do this to achieve the better family understanding. But theory is always different than practical, right? There are certain, like the way he's mentioning those are good points.
It may not exactly match
But you
with
need
your
to make
family
it. You need to have a
dynamic.
custom fit for your own family.
Definitely.
You need to improvise for your own family.
That's why
what I realized.
ideologies don't work. Because you think there's a one
Yeah.
solution for everything.
Yeah.
There isn't one solution for
isn't.
everything. Every
Yeah.
dynamic is different.
Different.
You can, take some things from here, take some things from there, and see if they work out for you. But you have to experiment.
Yeah.
And it takes time and it takes patience to
Definitely.
experiment and find out what really works for
So
you
there's
and your family.
literally so much we could dive into in specifics. If we went into specifics, how you can improve the relationship within the family dynamic, how we've faced those issues, and how we've actually come about some positive, seen about some positive change in it. But again, I think we have outlaid the outer line of it, and I think hopefully, if we, like fade away this outer line, we can hopefully be able to just in gradually, taking it from there. Specifics,
It becomes easier once you get through those first initial steps.
Those are the most difficult.
Those are the
ones.
hardest.
Hardest
And then
ones.
you're gonna hit another pinnacle.
Yeah.
You'll hit another what do you call it? Like a peak.
Obstacle.
Obstacle, of course. There's another word for it that's not coming to mind right now. Like a dead end, exactly. Kind of like a dead end. It will definitely feel like one. You know what I'm saying? And then that's gonna be another lesson learned for you, hopefully in the future,
Yeah,
if you
if you're
keep
patient.
persisting.
Yeah.
Those things but it gets easier. It definitely gets easier, and the results get better over
Very
time.
better. So like you feel so much better and so light-hearted when you actually develop that level of communication that you've been wanting to, and specifically with your family, because you do make that connection is easier to make it with friends, but with family it takes double the hard work.
Yeah.
So when you get, and again the hard,
And
the better the hard work, the better
Yeah.
the results. So when it pays off, na.
Exactly. Because
the
when you
results,
do that
like-
every day, you start to kind of see some benefits, and then eventually it exponentially increases.
Yeah.
It goes like this, And it's the same with negative things. We were talking about this. It's like, you eat one cookie out of the closet. You're going to be more inclined to eat that cookie the next day. You know what I'm saying? So, and then you're going to be inclined to have more if you have that next one as well.
Yeah.
So it goes down, it doesn't go down like this. It goes down like this.
Yeah, slowly. Definitely. So I think, those are some important
No, these are. How serious do you think this is?
For me this is like life and death serious.
Yeah.
These things, they shape up a person's life, they shape up a kid's character, they shape up a teenager's ambitions. So there's so much into it, because your intuitions and your passions and your profession that you're going to get into is all connected with this. Because if you cannot, we started off with connecting with yourself. If you cannot understand your inner psychology, you cannot resolve your own issues, and you cannot then resonate with others, or you can share it with your family, your parents, then you will never be able to actually figure out stuff or deal with stuff that you want to in your life. So I feel like these are the key takeaways
That you really want to. Like, it's like, because certain people think, they want this.
Yeah.
But once you actually do this, you realize that this is what you actually want.
Yeah. So I mean, that's something really beautiful. So the key takeaways from this Take Back series was that how life is different from states how life is different in Pakistan and in states. The comparison that we did, and the responsibility factor, hence that it increases because it makes you more independent. And another factor, I mean, it can be, you can pan it out in Pakistan as well, but then you have to be again, that delegation factor we talked about, that delegate these helpers in certain aspects, and then don't just sit on your,
Make sure you're not wasting your own time.
don't waste your time, do something useful for that, work on your business or something. And then we talked a bit about psychology. There's a lot of chemical hormones in regards to the brain that we could get into, like the cortisol, the dopamine, the oxytocin.
That'll probably be more of your expertise.
Yeah, but it's something I hopefully I will dive into later in the later series. But I just wanted to touch the mind topic, the human psychology, to the extent in which we could figure out what benefits we can get out of it, get out of therapy, the importance of psychology, the importance of talking, the importance of communication in a family system, and specifically realizing these things, how important they are in today's society, may it be states, may it be Pakistan. And also the main factor, we discussed quite some about nutritional psychology. So I hope these things pan out well, and the audience is able to perceive them in a positive and in the way we want them to perceive it, inshallah.
Yeah, I guess that's what we should all be asking ourselves. How much of that are we doing? How much of that are we not doing? Are we looking at the nutritional side of it? And how much are we because there is an extent that everybody is looking at that stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot more we don't know than we know. That's for sure.
So let's definitely end it with asking ourselves these questions of all the things we discussed. Okay, where do we fall in these certain situations, and what can we do to make them better? So I think that was a good one. That's a wrap, buddy.
Sure,
It was nice having you
Thanks
at
for
the
having
Take
me,
Back.
man.
All right, man. Peace
Definitely.
out.